If you're a diehard Browns fan and love breaking down the game like we do, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss a blitz. The NFL trade deadline always brings chaos, but this year's flurry of last-minute deals has been something else entirely. In a league where front offices often play it safe, 2025 has delivered a wild, unpredictable stretch of roster reshuffling that's left fans and analysts alike scrambling to make sense of it all. From blockbuster trades to under-the-radar moves, every hour leading up to the deadline has felt like a new episode in a season-long drama. And right in the middle of that madness, the Cleveland Browns quietly pulled off a deal that, while not earth-shattering, reveals plenty about their direction and mindset as they push through the middle stretch of the season. The Browns have traded pass rusher Joe Tryon-Shoyinka to the Chicago Bears, sending him along with a 2026 seventh-round pick in exchange for a 2026 sixth-rounder. On paper, that might seem like a simple late-round pick swap, something most fans would scroll right past on their phones without thinking twice. But when you start to unpack the story behind it, the timing, the roster implications, and what it means for both franchises, the move paints a much clearer picture of where Cleveland stands and what Chicago is trying to salvage. This isn't a headline-grabbing trade like the Colts landing Sauce Gardner from the Jets for 2 first-round picks and Adonai Mitchell, but it's the kind of subtle front office chess move that good teams quietly make to keep their depth charts clean and their long-term strategy intact. Let's start with the Browns side of the story. When Cleveland signed Joe Tryon-Shoyinka in the offseason to a 1-year, $4.75 million deal, the expectation was that he'd add rotational value behind superstar Myles Garrett. The Browns wanted a capable veteran who could come in, provide situational pass rush help, and be a stabilizing presence on the edge. On paper, it made sense. Tryon-Shoyinka, a former first-round pick by the Buccaneers, brought athleticism and experience to a defense that had been redefining itself under Jim Schwartz. But as the weeks went on, reality didn't quite line up with the expectations. Through 8 games, Tryon-Shoyinka managed to see the field for just 31 defensive snaps. That's not a typo, 31. And while sample size can sometimes hide flashes of potential, it's fair to say there wasn't much in those limited reps that made the coaching staff rethink his role. Part of that lack of opportunity was simply due to the Browns' depth at edge rusher. Myles Garrett is, well, Myles Garrett, a Defensive Player of the Year candidate who commands double teams on nearly every snap. Then you've got Alex Wright, Isaiah McGuire, and Cameron Thomas all carving out meaningful roles in the rotation. Cleveland has built one of the league's most physically dominant defensive fronts, and there just wasn't room for Tryon-Shoyinka to get enough meaningful work. It's not that he failed. It's that he never really had the chance to prove himself. And in the unforgiving world of NFL roster management, a veteran on a 1-year deal who's barely playing becomes expendable fast. That's what made this move logical for Cleveland. They didn't just dump a player. They squeezed value out of a situation where there wasn't much left to gain. By flipping Tryon-Shoyinka and a future 7th-round pick for a future 6th, they essentially upgraded their draft capital while freeing up a bit of salary flexibility and an open roster spot. It's not glamorous, but these are the kind of small, strategic moves that build sustainable depth over time. The Browns' front office under Andrew Berry has made a habit of this. Minor trades that look inconsequential on the surface but, over the long term, accumulate into meaningful advantages. And when you look at the Browns' draft stockpile right now, you can see that long-term vision in full effect. Cleveland holds all of its own picks for next year's draft, plus an extra first-rounder, 2 additional 5ths, 3 6ths, and 2 7ths. That's a treasure chest of draft capital for a team that's already competitive. It gives them options to move up, to find depth, or to swing a trade when an impact player becomes available. For a team hovering around the playoff picture and dealing with injuries like everyone else in November, that kind of flexibility could end up being the difference between just making the playoffs and actually making noise once they get there. Now, flipping to the Bears' side, this deal makes even more sense when you see what's been happening in Chicago. The Bears are 5-3 and right in the thick of the NFC playoff race, but they've been dealt a huge blow with the loss of Dayo Odeyingbo, their top free agent pass rushing acquisition, who went down with a season-ending Achilles injury. For a defense that's been trying to find its identity under Matt Eberflus, losing your premier edge rusher is a gut punch. That's why bringing in Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, even as a short-term rental, is a smart, calculated move. Tryon Shoyinka may not be a game-changer, but he's still a high-upside athlete who can contribute in spurts, especially on a defense that values rotational bursts of energy. In Tampa Bay, he showed flashes of being a disruptive edge rusher who could win one-on-one battles with his first step. What he lacked in consistency, he made up for in effort and physical tools. Chicago's defensive line, with Montez Sweat commanding attention on the other side, gives Tryon Shoyinka the perfect environment to reestablish his rhythm. He won't have to carry the load. Just provide situational pressure, keep offensive tackles honest, and give the Bears some flexibility in how they scheme their fronts. This is a no-risk, moderate-reward move for the Bears. If Tryon Shoyinka gives them 15 to 20 solid snaps a game down the stretch, it's worth the low cost of moving down a round in the 2026 draft. And if he doesn't work out, he's on a one-year deal, and they can simply move on without any financial baggage. That's the beauty of deals like this. They let teams stay aggressive without mortgaging the future. For a Chicago squad that's trying to prove it belongs in the playoff conversation, every edge rusher, every rotational defender, every snap of pressure counts. What's particularly interesting is how this trade reflects both teams' identities right now. Cleveland is playing the long game. Smart cap management, asset accumulation, and depth over flash. Chicago, meanwhile, is trying to win in the present, balancing urgency with prudence. These two front offices are at different stages in their competitive timelines, but both are showing signs of maturity in how they're building their rosters. The Browns didn't panic and overpay to patch holes. The Bears didn't sit idle while their defensive front got thinner by the week. Each acted decisively, but within their own philosophies. And the timing of the move adds another layer to the story. With the trade deadline minutes away from closing, teams were scrambling to get deals finalized. Big names like Jacoby Myers, Rashid Shaheed, and Jalen Phillips were already on the move. The Colts' blockbuster for Sauce Gardner had everyone buzzing. Easily the day's biggest shocker. But behind all that noise, Cleveland quietly did what good organizations do. They executed a clean, logical move that strengthens their position without shaking their foundation. It's easy for fans to dismiss these small trades, especially when they involve late-round pick swaps. But in the modern NFL, where the salary cap, compensatory picks, and roster depth all intersect in complex ways, even the smallest transactions can ripple through a franchise's long-term success. The Browns' ability to turn an underutilized player into a minor draft upgrade, while maintaining a strong, cohesive locker room, speaks to their discipline. You can tell this is a front office that doesn't just react, it plans. Every move is part of a larger chess game, even if it doesn't make the highlight reel. For Tryon Shoyinka, this is a second chance, maybe his last real one, to prove he belongs as a consistent contributor in the NFL. The Bears system could be the reset button he's been looking for. He's got fresh surroundings, a clear path to playing time, and a coaching staff that desperately needs him to perform. If he can stay healthy and capitalize on his reps, he might just turn this quiet trade into a sneaky win for Chicago. Sometimes all a player needs is the right fit, the right timing, and a locker room that believes in him. As for the Browns, they'll move forward barely missing a beat. The defensive front remains one of the most dominant units in the league, led by Garrett's relentless motor and a rotation that's only gotten deeper and more synchronized as the season's progressed. Every week, Cleveland proves that their defensive identity isn't built on names. It's built on execution, discipline, and effort. Losing Tryon Shoyinka doesn't change that equation at all. If anything, it just sharpens their focus on the guys who've been delivering snap after snap. So while the national headlines might focus on the splasher moves, the Gardner trade, the last-minute receiver swaps, the drama of teams going all in, this Browns-Bears deal is a reminder that not every meaningful transaction comes with fireworks. Sometimes, it's the quiet, unglamorous ones that keep teams steady through the storm. Cleveland trims the fat, Chicago fills a void, and the NFL's trade deadline drama rolls on. And that's the beauty of this time of year. Every move, big or small, tells a story about where a team is, where it's headed, and how it views its chances. The Browns' trade of Tryon Shoyinka won't dominate the sports talk shows, but it fits perfectly into the mosaic of a season that's already been one of the most unpredictable in recent memory. Both teams walk away with exactly what they needed. And in the NFL, that's what defines a good deal. Enjoying the content so far? Smash that like button and drop your take in the comments. We want to hear what you think about the Browns this season. Rumors have been swirling around the Cleveland Browns organization for weeks now, and it seems like the storm may finally be breaking. Myles Garrett, the cornerstone of their defensive line and one of the most dominant defensive ends in the NFL today, could be on the move. Yes, you heard that right. Myles Garrett, the man who has terrorized quarterbacks and transformed the Browns' pass rush into a league-wide nightmare, might not be suiting up in brown and orange anymore. The chatter started subtly, tucked into whispers among insiders, but as the days pass, it's growing louder, gaining traction, and it's hard to ignore that something significant could be brewing in Cleveland. Fans are divided, analysts are speculating, and social media is lighting up with the kind of buzzing energy that only a blockbuster potential trade can generate. For years, Garrett has been the face of the Browns' defense, a relentless force whose combination of size, speed, and instinct has put him in the conversation among the very best defensive players of his era. Drafted as the first overall pick in 2017, he came into the league with sky-high expectations, and while his rookie season had the usual bumps, he quickly grew into a game-changing presence. Over time, he became synonymous with the Browns' defensive identity. He isn't just a player. He's a symbol of the franchise's recent resurgence and its hard-fought return to playoff contention. But, as is often the case in the NFL, even the biggest stars are not immune to the complexities of contracts, cap space, and front office maneuvering. The rumors suggest that behind closed doors, the Browns might be weighing a move that could shake the league to its core. Sources hint at tension, or perhaps opportunity, depending on which side of the spectrum you're looking from. Could this be a strategic shift, a financial necessity, or a combination of both? The details remain murky, but the speculation alone has already sent shockwaves through the Browns fan base. If Garrett does leave, it wouldn't just be a roster change, it would be seismic. Imagine the Browns without their sack king, the linchpin of their defense, the player whose mere presence on the field demands attention from opposing offenses. There are whispers that the Browns front office has been exploring offers from multiple teams ready to throw significant assets at Cleveland for the chance to secure one of the most physically imposing and technically gifted defensive players in the league. Rumors include first-round picks, potential young stars, and even future draft capital, all part of a deal that could drastically alter the balance of power in the NFL. The league thrives on speculation like this, and every insider feed seems to be reporting variations of the same story. Myles Garrett might be on the move, and if he goes, the ripple effects would be felt across multiple divisions. Some believe the Browns might leverage this situation to stockpile more picks, accelerate a rebuild, or position themselves differently in the free agent market. Others argue that losing Garrett would be a gamble, one that could cost the team defensive dominance and momentum they've been painstakingly building. Meanwhile, Garrett himself has been unusually quiet. There's no social media firestorm, no cryptic posts, no overt hints of discontent, at least publicly. But those close to the situation suggest that conversations behind the scenes have been ongoing for months. The players' camp is said to be aware of interest from high-profile franchises, teams with Super Bowl aspirations, teams that could provide both a championship window and a lucrative contract extension. The intrigue is real. Fans of teams rumored to be in the mix are buzzing, envisioning Garrett anchoring their defense, wreaking havoc on every Sunday. NFL talk shows are dissecting potential scenarios, analysts are creating trade matrices, and social media speculation threads are growing by the hour. If there's a move to be made, it's going to dominate the off-season narrative in a way few other stories could. Every game, every snap, and every press conference now seems to carry an undercurrent of what if. What if Garrett leaves? Who goes with him? How does the Browns roster adjust? And what does this mean for the balance of power across the league? These are questions that won't have easy answers, but they are exactly what fuels the rumor mill that makes NFL coverage so intoxicating. The timing of all this adds another layer to the drama. With free agency approaching and the draft looming, teams are in that delicate window where bold moves can define a season. Some speculate that the Browns could be positioning themselves for a blockbuster trade, one that brings a haul of picks while reshaping their defensive and offensive balance. Others suggest it could be a precursor to more sweeping changes, signaling a philosophical shift in the team's approach to roster construction. Meanwhile, Garrett remains one of the most desirable commodities in football, a player who can change the outcome of games on his own. It's easy to see why teams would be lining up for a chance to acquire him. And the Browns, with all their history and the current cap situation, are reportedly in a position where they could get unprecedented value for one of the best defensive ends in the modern era. The stakes are enormous, and the suspense is only growing. Fan reaction, of course, has been immediate and passionate. Social media platforms are flooded with speculation, theories, and outright panic. Some Browns supporters are hoping this is nothing more than a misfired rumor, a storm in a teacup that will blow over before it can cause real damage. Others are preparing for the possibility that Garrett will be gone and are debating the future of the franchise in his absence. Across the league, rival fans are salivating at the potential impact. Teams in desperate need of a game-changing pass rusher are suddenly in a much stronger position if the deal comes together. And while no one knows exactly how this will unfold, the energy and chatter surrounding the situation is unmistakable. The idea of Myles Garrett leaving Cleveland has the power to dominate headlines for weeks, if not months, and every new tidbit or leak is instantly magnified and dissected across the sports media landscape. There's also an emotional side to consider. Garrett isn't just a star player. He's a figure whose personality and leadership have left a mark on teammates and fans alike. The locker room dynamics, the mentorship of younger players, and the cultural imprint he's made on the franchise all add to the weight of this potential move. Reports suggest that, should a trade happen, there would be an outpouring of emotion from both the fan base and the team itself. Coaches and teammates are reportedly aware of the potential scenario, and while professionalism prevails in public, insiders hint at the tension that accompanies such high-stakes speculation. For a franchise that has worked so hard to re-establish itself as a playoff contender, the loss of a player like Garrett would be monumental, not just on the field, but in the very identity of the team. And yet, in professional sports, such moves are sometimes necessary, calculated risks that could pay off in surprising ways. Whether this is one of those moments remains to be seen, but the buzz surrounding it is undeniable. As the offseason looms and the NFL gears up for a new chapter, all eyes are on the Browns and Myles Garrett. The narrative is developing rapidly, and with each passing day, the rumor gains credibility. Will Garrett remain the heartbeat of Cleveland's defense, continuing to terrorize quarterbacks and anchor the team's resurgence? Or will he be traded to a new destination, altering the competitive landscape and reshaping expectations across multiple divisions? The intrigue is intense, the speculation is rampant, and the implications are massive. For now, the only certainty is uncertainty, and that, in itself, makes for one of the most compelling stories in the NFL today. Whatever happens, one thing is clear. The Myles Garrett saga is far from over, and the coming weeks could redefine the Browns, their defense, and the league as a whole. Fans, analysts, and players alike will be watching closely, waiting for the moment when whispers turn into reality and one of the NFL's premier talents finally makes his next move. The excitement, the tension, and the drama are all part of the game. And if the rumors hold any truth, this is going to be a story that nobody will forget. Thanks for riding with us on another Browns Blitz. If you liked the video, share it with a fellow fan, hit subscribe, and ring that bell so you're always part of the Dawg Pound conversation. Go Browns!